Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hearthstone. So third recording, I'm kind of surprised we made it to a third recording. It'd be nice if we got up to fourth recordings every now and then too, but we need to play more rogue class cards and we need to get 2 more victories with the Paladin and Warrior. But we may try some Warrior games if we have enough time with it. I don't know if we will. So rogue class cards tells me to play combo. And I guess I'm playing casual here. I don't know when I switched over to playing casual or not. I've realized that, instead of crossing out black dry erase marker with a black dry erase marker, why don't I get one of the many other colors I have, because I have also red, blue, and green, and cross out things that way. Yeah, and so that seems to work. I am really amazingly inept on how this stuff works. You're basically teaching a dog how to brush his hair in the mirror. He doesn't know how a mirror works. He doesn't know how a brush works. I don't know where I got that analogy either, where that came from in my head. The Second Life developer has showed off its new social VR platform, Sansar. I looked at it, and it looks very much like Unreal. I wouldn't say Unity, but it does kind of look like Unreal. And there's a big difference, it seems, between the interface to play it in VR and the interface to actually develop with it. So I think much like if you were making a mod for something like Skyrim or something, or where you were using an engine to help you, that
here we go.
I'm just gonna go ahead and kill this guy. It seems like if you're going to be a creator in this world, in this social VR platform, which is not a game, and it seems like they don't really want to spend any significant amount of energy on creating it as a game themselves. They want to just put it out and say everybody creates it. And that is what Second Life really, a big portion of it was, is that that people were creating content for Second Life and then selling it themselves, which arguably might not be allowed these days without the developers taking a cut, which would be totally unacceptable. That kind of feels like what this might be, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they're trying to pull Bethesda here, where they're going to make very little of a game themselves and then try to make modders finish the game and make profit from the modders finishing the game. Because that's kind of what this feels like. And frankly, just putting Sansar away, I can't imagine people really creating things in VR at all. I can't imagine actually painting with it. I can't imagine actually 3D modeling with it. It's just too far away from what I'm used to. Let's see, this, and I think it's just too far away from what most people are going to be used to.
Shadow strike.
Really, VR would have to be something that the next generation picks up on, and they're so used to using VR that it's just like the real world, and they can pick up a virtual brush and draw it, and paint and draw, and I don't believe that, because people never even really, good artists never even really learned that for, or were able to do that for general mouse. Like, I don't think people go to Facebook, Photoshop, and use a mouse and draw. I think people use a tablet to translate their actual physical drawing into Photoshop, or they draw on paper and they scan and then do edge detection and tracing. So I don't think the pencil to paper analogy, the hand interaction, is just going to go away, and people are going to be able to do it 100% in the virtual world. Like, I don't foresee a future where somebody's going to be a great artist in VR but an awful artist in real life. I don't think that's going to happen. So, yeah, I'm not holding my breath with Sansar. It sounds just kind of like so many other overly ambitious things that aren't gonna really work.
What you got there?
This is our town, scrub.
Yeah, beat it.
Let's see, maybe I should have
Shadow Strike.
Maybe I should have played this guy, but whatever. There's a Sleeping Dogs movie coming starring Donnie Yen, the Chinese/Asian guy. I think he's Chinese, but I could be wrong. In Rogue One. Now, I haven't watched Rogue One. I haven't watched episode 7. And I don't think I've seen Donnie Yen in anything. Although, he might be in that Badlands TV series that I watched, and I liked that.
Let me think.
Inherently, what I heard, though, about Rogue One was that it felt like they specifically put his character in to do some Chinese waifu actions that we really hadn't seen too much of in Star Wars up until that point. And they did that intentionally to pander to the Chinese movie market, which is effectively pandering to the Chinese government to appeal to the government because they pay people to literally buy tickets and go watch movies. So that's what I had heard, and that's what I figured is true. It seems to be a growing issue. A lot is that there's a consistent and pretty blatant attempt at China influencing Hollywood, and Hollywood being more than willing to increase their sales if they pander to China. And if it were the other way around, and the U.S. government was paying the movie-making industry in China, assuming there is one, which I'm not sure there is, to have pro-U.S. propaganda, it would clearly just be shown as a propaganda piece, and ideally people would say this is a waste of government money. And if the U.S. government was paying people to go watch movies that were pro-U.S. made by Chinese Hollywood, whatever it would be called, that would be crazy. And this whole thing is crazy. And frankly, the whole thing sounds crazy. Like, I'm just making this up and ranting about something that doesn't really exist. But from what I've heard and from what it seems to be a open secret.
Shadow Strike.
So we'll attack here. And then we'll attack here. And then the turn. Now, all that being said, and I'm starting to have this having to have this rant all the time. A good example of the opposite of this is you have the Ghost in the Shell Hollywood version of the movie is about to come out, and as far as I can tell, no Japanese company really wants it. The Japanese government doesn't really care about it, and certainly it's not like Ghost in the Shell is. If Ghost in the Shell is full of pro-Japanese propaganda, then they've seriously missed the point of the movie in a lot of ways. So yeah,
This is our town, scrub.
now I'm sure the company that licensed the license out wants it to succeed, and I'm sure they're hoping that people in Japan will watch it, but honestly, I bet that's all they care about is that people in Japan watch it. They probably don't even care if it does well in America. The licensing company, that is, and the people actually making the movie certainly will care if it does well in the rest of the world. If anything, there's been a lot of controversy, and inherently it's just another in a long line of live action versions, and the bigger thing people should be upset about is you take an original art, say like the Mona Lisa, and then you try to make it more mass friendly. It loses some of its effect, and you're really making a poorer quality product than the original. Like, redoing the Mona Lisa by a lesser artist is not helpful, and that's all I have ever seen with any live action version of any anime, because it's just more difficult to do live action versions of things than it is to do anime versions of things.
You looking at me?
A little
I have to win here, so we have to play this and then this. See, it almost seems like I might lose there. So I'm not really expecting much. But to get back to the Sleeping Dogs movie, Sleeping Dogs is a Japanese game about a Japanese Yakuza member. So he looks the part. He seems an appropriate thing. I'd love to see Donnie Yen be a new Jet Li, because Jet Li has problems, and I don't think he's allowed back in the country for not paying child support. And Jackie Chan is too old and broken, and Jackie Chan is super funded by and pro-China. And see, there's not that many other people I could even, like, I can't name anybody else as far as somebody who's Asian who can do Asian things. Also, in that statement, there's also the implication is where the Asian actors that don't have to do kung fu, there certainly could be some more diversity there. We have some comedians and stuff, but they don't get in movies. In fact, the movie People is still very, very limited in who is in what, and I'd like to see more people get more breaks and do that. But Donnie Yen is already in danger of the two main movies. Of the two movies I've ever heard he was even in, he's already in danger of being played as a stereotypical kung fu Asian person, which that doesn't help. And no, different colors don't write over black ink any better than anything else. And see, I'm just ruining these markers. I keep talking about this. It's like, so yeah, this just doesn't work. I am gonna have to just start erasing things. A Wii U emulator got the Wii U version of Zelda Breath of the Wild running, quote unquote, after just a few hours. It was one of the news reports I saw, which brings us to our not news segment, which is a segment that seems to be something that's going to happen every time I have any news. So the way they phrased it was not like how I just said it, but they were talking about a specific emulator, and they put it like Breath of the Wild already emulated in just a few hours, and it's like, well, wait a minute. This is a Wii U emulator that has been in development for a long time to play all Wii U games. Breath of the Wild, the Wii U version, is a Wii U game, so of course it wouldn't take that much effort to get it to run. I'm surprising it even took any effort to get it to run. And right now it's running at 5 to 15 frames per second, so it's not running great. So it might be actual news if they could say Breath of the Wild, the Wii U Breath of the Wild version is surprisingly easy, runs surprisingly well on the Wii U emulator. Let's see, how do I want this? I guess I want this, and then this, and then this, and
Here
then
we
this.
go.
In return, what would be better news too would be if they said Breath of the Wild, the Switch version, which arguably is might run better. I assume if they could get the Switch version to run on a PC through some emulation or something, that after a lot of tweaking, the Switch version will run better than what the Wii U version will. Just, I assume there's going to be steps that were already taken to make it run better and smoother and have better graphics. So if in a few hours they got that running on a PC, that would be amazing. Does that really help me as a YouTuber? No. Like, if I'm going down the route where I'm saying, first you've got to get this emulator, then you've got to install it, then you've got to effectively have a copy somehow of the game, and nobody bothers to, and I'm not gonna bother to ask anybody how they got that copy. Let's see, deal 4 damage instead. Oh man, I should have played this and this, but alright, we'll do it next time.
Here we go.
So, yeah. And even if I could get it to run, it doesn't help anything with Nintendo and the Content ID problems. Something weird went on with one of the Content ID claims on mine. One of the ones that was unfairly rejected for a fair use claim. Seems like they came back and said, nope, you're right, after the fact, and dropped it. Either that or the system just messed up. And see, I only really need to fight really hard back on some of these claims if they mute or block it in the countries, which was kind of a new one to me in itself. Is like, I'm cool with you taking the money. I'm not cool with it. No, let me rephrase that. But if they're gonna steal the money from me and rob me, fine. At least it gets my videos out, and of the 30 videos that are usually in a series, if they're robbing me for one of them, at least I'm getting 29. I mean, this is the world we live in, where highway robbery is part of everyday life digitally, but if they're blocking it and nobody can see it, well, now then I've got a problem, because I put out this video and everybody looks at it and says it's blocked. I'm not a big enough YouTuber. I don't have a big enough fan base that's going to cause people to rally to my side and help me, even though people should rally to everybody's side on this case. I listened to Total Biscuit talking about copyright again, and he made an interesting argument. He said last time he talked about it, he said that Google is the company that should fix this, and Google is the company that should fix it, but they obviously have no interest in fixing their Content ID system. So then he proposed, well, maybe Valve should just fix it. It's like any company that blatantly abuses the Content ID system or copyright, and they're talking about copyright claims, DMCA claims, and similar things. Depending on whether they actually use the DMCA or they just use a copyright system built into YouTube, that Valve should just sever all business ties with them immediately and say, you can't sell your games on our site anymore because we don't want to be associated with somebody who would do that. And that would work pretty well, except for in every single case that works with me. It works pretty well when the company you're severing ties with is some small independent digital homicide style company that's just making garbage that nobody really cares about. It doesn't work at all when you go to WB, makers of many games, Batman games and things like that, and say, well, because your Universal Music Group, which I think is WB, is making frivolous content claims, which I think UMG is not too terrible with it, honestly.
We are the sword in the shadows.
There's this whole weirdness where you just have to kind of learn how to manipulate the system and schedule your disputes in times when they won't bother to read them, because at sometimes, like the exact same video, if you schedule a dispute at one point in the day versus another point in the day, I assume they have some foreign workers in some country, and one person just clicks reject to all disputes and doesn't get in trouble for it, and then the next person doesn't, or doesn't get around to your specific dispute at all because they're so far behind it. And that's inherently the problem with the Content ID system too, is it automatically scans all these videos and then gives all of these copyright claims that they probably didn't even really want to have happen, but they're more than happy to profit from.
I wonder.
So, moving on, the Bloodstained, amongst other games, are claiming to come to the Switch. Not a big issue, really. They're not really news there either, but yeah, of course you're going to try and beg, plead, and cajole every single person who's making a game that's coming out anytime soon to bring it out to a Switch. And Nintendo's not even Nintendo's that crazy, where they're just gonna totally alienate people who think they might get some sales on a new market, and tell them that we're gonna make it difficult for you to port your game to our system or sell your game on our system. That being said, the games that are being announced, if they come to the system, good. If they don't, fine. It doesn't really, I think, change too much.
I don't have enough mana.
Darn it. Maybe if I hadn't played this, Yeah, I could have won. Oops. Joy-Cons work on a PC. I would never use them on a PC though. It is a consideration always, as like maybe a new controller for the next system will turn itself into something very useful. If she can do 2 more damage to me in the next turn, they've won.
So many
But
options.
I don't think they do. Joy-Cons in particular don't seem to be very interesting things. And back to the not news segment, there's a secret message laser etched on one little nook of the
So many
Switch
options.
Pro controller. Not really news. This is just kind of shenanigans that video game hardware developers will do these days, I suppose, to allow them to make another to get another week of news coverage, another piece of news out there. It's part of the reason why I'm saying not news is this growing segment, because in all honesty, news, particularly in the video game industry, but everywhere, is getting full of garbage. Much like the Steam library, it's getting full of garbage to the point where the actual news isn't floating up to the top, and people are seeing stories about secret messages laser etched in the Wii, the not Wii, but the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, and then they're missing the important news, like, oh, by the way, this game is buggy, or, oh, by the way, Activision is charging for some map pack DLC, so Activision is looking out for more money. And see, that was the last story I had to talk about. And we are done here, except for I need 2 victories with the Paladin or Warrior. So I'm just going to do those off screen. 15 hours until the Tavern Brawl, the Super Tavern Brawl, is back. We are at 7,720. I don't think this new expansion, now that it's been announced, I don't think I'm going to be at 10,000 by the time that happens. And even if I was at 10,000, I have very little confidence I'd be back up to 10,000 by the time the next expansion happens. So I think 50 packs is what we're going to do. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.